Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Daniel and I am the founder of Tiny Rig Company. Today we're going to walk you guys through Powerbrake's X-Line big brake kit. This kit is something that I put on my truck before we started selling it. Another AluCab dealer introduced me to DeLon, who is one of the founders of Powerbrake. And since then, we've sold many sets, installed many sets, and I've had them on my vehicle now for 3 years, and I'm incredibly happy with it. So we did a video a long time ago in a lot of detail with DeLon. You guys can go look back. It was one of the first videos we ever did. It's pretty lengthy, and I jump into a lot of detail with him, and he really jumps into a ton of the details. But I'm going to walk you guys through kind of a quick rundown of really what differentiates Powerbrake from the other 6-piston big brake kits that are now offered for off-road vehicles. We got a Tacoma behind us. You guys will find that there's probably 4 or 5 pretty big companies doing big brake kits, but none of them are doing it as well as these guys, which is why we will continue to only sell this product. Side by side here for you guys, this is the factory Toyota Tacoma caliper. And then here's the Powerbrake one. Obviously, aesthetically, this looks beautiful and this looks ugly, but there's a lot more to it. Here we've got the side-by-side of the rotors, and again, from a size standpoint, very, very different. Material standpoint, an engineering standpoint, very different. In addition to that, we've got the OEM pad and the Powerbrake pad as well. And again, side-by-side, size comparison, very, very different. So let's jump into kind of what differentiates Powerbrake from the rest of the other 6-piston setups you can get for a Tacoma. Essentially what that is this is purpose-built. So this is designed for off-road use. You can drive it around daily. However, there's design elements that make this stand up to off-road abuse much better. All of the hardware points for how this is built are all tucked away and protected. So if you have a rock jump up and hit, you're not going to damage the serviceability or the product itself. From those other products, what a lot of these companies are doing is taking a caliper that's designed for another vehicle, and they are basically making a mounting bracket to allow you to bolt that caliper. And so we had a customer that went with a cheaper option. We were doing a canopy camper build for him, and he went with a slightly less expensive but very, very well-known company that makes some very good brakes. And he told us the pedal feel was awful, and he took it back to those guys. They rebled everything, and he still just had an incredibly squishy pedal. And so that's where you guys are going to find that this kit, whether you have a Tacoma, a 4Runner, a Gladiator, an 80 series Land Cruiser, any of the other platforms that you can buy power brakes for, they're specifically built for that vehicle. The housing of it may be the same, maybe slightly different, but all of the internals are different, and those internals are what dictate the hydraulic pressure that's being applied to basically that pedal feel that you have. So you've got your master cylinder under the hood, that's going to supply brake fluid to your calipers, and that's what squeezes things, right? So if you've got a squishy pedal and you might need to go have them serviced, maybe it's an issue of having air in your brake lines, you'll never have that pedal feel like you have with these because they're specifically made for each vehicle. And that's a huge advantage to just pedal feel, response time of you hitting that brake, right? People don't think about it, but that squishiness can be the difference of you rear-ending someone or not. So big difference there. Another one's going to be in these rotors. This rotor has curved vanes, and what that's going to do is that's going to capture the air while you're driving, and it's going to push it through onto the caliper and provide additional cooling. Most of those other setups that you guys are going to find do not have that. Pad compound. This pad compound that is on this brake pad that comes with the Powerbrakes is a really, really high-end quality that, again, like longevity. George is behind the camera for you guys right now. So George, we put your truck on the rack maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and you probably had 30 or 40,000 miles on it, and your pads still look brand new, right? And George has a really heavy truck as well, and he's done a lot of off-road miles. He's done Colorado multiple times, going up and down those passes, right, where you would typically have that heat buildup, and those pads look great. I think heat is another thing to talk about here. So Delon from Powerbrake likes to stress the brakes really set themselves apart from other systems because of their ability to stay cooler. It's coming down that mountain where you're repeatedly holding onto those brakes, where the capabilities of cooling on these guys is what's going to really keep you safe. It's going to reduce that brake fade. And I guess the easiest way to explain brake fade to you guys, there's also shock fade, but imagine taking a pan, pouring olive oil in it, and watching it heat up on the stove. It starts to get thinner, right? And that's when you kind of work it around the pan. When oil gets hot, it thins out. And so that'll happen with your brakes if you don't have the correct cooling. So all of the features of the rotor, the larger pad, the caliper, that's all gonna affect cooling, keeping things cooler. You know, I put them on my truck, and before I had them on my truck, I was always nervous with my wife driving the truck. I drove it all the time, so I was used to it. I kept a larger distance. My wife might kill me for saying this, but she's rear-ended a couple people a few times because she drives way too close. And with that, I really didn't like her driving the truck. I don't worry about it anymore. I never do. And the first experience I had of really stepping on the brakes on this truck surprised me. I was driving home, going pretty slow, but a kid in the neighborhood had a ball roll out, and he started to bolt out into the street, and I slammed on the brakes, and it was a, excuse my language, but holy shit moment. And so I think that from like a day-to-day standpoint, a pedal feel standpoint, your truck is going to feel like it did the day you drove it off the lot. You're going to go and you're going to just stop at a light, and your truck's just going to stop casually. You know, you're not going to have to really hold that down. You're not going to have to plan for the stop like you do with a heavy vehicle if you're one of those people that have that now. Everything's just going to work great like it should. And then the time that you do need to step on the brakes, it's going to be that holy shit moment of how strong they are. I encourage you guys, if you're local to Southern California, come by the shop. I'll take you for a ride in my truck, and we'll slam on the brakes, and you guys can see for yourself. Another call out that I have for you guys is from a wheel standpoint, you will need to upgrade to a 17-inch wheel. If you have a Toyota, it's pretty straightforward. Most of the wheels will work. If you have a Gladiator, it gets a little more unique, and we have to use a template to make sure that it'll clear the caliper, so that way when you drive, it's not rubbing the inside of the wheel. This particular wheel is one that we're really happy with. I've had them on my truck now for probably close to 4 years. I've switched here and there in between, but it's the only wheel I've ever gone back to. It's a Relation Race Wheels. And this one actually is flow form, so that's something they just came out with, which is why we picked up some sets to keep in stock here. If you guys do want to come to us and you need to upgrade your wheels as well, we'll help you out pricing wise, put a package together for you, and we'll get these on your truck. On the subject of wheels and keeping them light, rotational mass is another topic that, you know, most Tacoma owners at this point are running 35s if they're into overlanding or off-roading. And with adding that larger tire, you add more rotational mass, which is going to make it harder to stop. So even if you don't have a huge heavy camper, but you add 35s, you do a lot of mountain roads, you'll really benefit from this product. So typically safety isn't the cool thing that people focus on, right? You want to do lift, suspension, wheels, tires, tint, things like that. But if we're being practical when we're doing that stuff and increasing the weight of the vehicle, we should be paying attention to the braking power to keep us safe and other drivers on the road. So that's about it, guys. If you guys have more questions, would like to learn more about the product, you guys are welcome to call the shop. You guys can go check out that old YouTube video we have, and you know, stop by, take you for a drive, and yeah, appreciate you guys.